there are a lot of participants who will be watching this later who are not students, so I'll make my questions as diverse as possible. And the first thing will be around discussing myth breakers around running a business in the UK. A lot of people, British and non-British presidents, would say, Britain is very regulated, and am I sure I should start a business now or not? So could you identify one of those myths and what's the solution to this myth could be?
Thank you very much. I think, to be fair, the UK is quite regulated, but I think as relates to businesses, for example, to start up a business, you can actually do it online, and the next day it's open. So it costs, even for the ones that say for example limited liability company, I think at most it will cost £12. So yes, it's regulated, but not the barrier to entry they've made it very low, because like I said, the government they want businesses to start, because businesses help them, so they've done whatever they can to make the barrier to entry as low as possible. I think the heavy regulation it's other areas not to come in. There might be regulation problems, but that's subsequent and in other areas. But to start a business, it's not. I think it's a myth, like you said.
Okay. So my next question would be for Deborah, considering that you've run a business in your home country, Nigeria. I personally know that apart from running a business, you've done stuff around fashion, runway shows a couple of times, and now you've moved your business to the UK. So could you tell me how the transitioning has been, moving from a different climate, different culture, into a new climate? And this question is directed just because there are people also who think, how am I able to bring my experience from my home country? They may not be Nigerians, they may be Indians and other Asians into the UK. So while you're attending to this, I'm just going to change this.
Okay, so, running a business in Nigeria and running a business in the UK is definitely different, because you're literally in a different culture, right? You're dealing with different set of people. But then the idea of how to run a business really is the same, right? Whatever it is, how, just like Dikule has said, you have to, there are different ways you can, there's a sole partnership, there's then you have partnership where you partner with other people. So it's still the same, but it's just your market now has changed, right? And then you really need to understand your market so that you know how it's either you pivot your products or you pivot your services, or you pivot your methods of how you deliver your business, because you're in a different climate. So the truth is, it has not really been easy, because I am into knitwear fashion. So I literally produce sweaters, anything knitwear. So it could be blouses, it could be blazers, it could be, jackets, cardigans, blankets, however. And you know how they say this is the environment that really needs it, right? Because the climate is cold most of the time. But then, as a small business, you're competing with people like Primark. You're competing with the Shein. You're competing with Temu. So you're competing with M&S. So the UK market, or the people that are already here, they already have the people that they shop from. And then you come in as a new business, you have to really sit down and think, what is the thing that you're going to do differently? Because if you go into Primark, you can easily get a sweater for as low as £7. But if me, as a small business, I'm going to sit down and, literally produce sweaters, or literally produce maybe like the same product, I'm not going to charge £7. I'm not even going to charge £12. Because the cost of of the
Operational cost.
the product, the raw materials itself that I have to use is high. Then the cost of coming to do it myself is another thing. So it has not really been easy, but then it just shows that the market is out there, because I've met people that they say, I don't like the quality of what I get in Primark. I don't like
mentioning this.
Oh, sorry. I don't like the quality of what I get in some brands. So I am willing to pay a particular amount just for me to get the kind of quality I want. So then the real work is now finding this market, finding these people, and then marketing to this set of people. So the truth is, doing business is the same way, but then it's a different climate, it's a different market, and then you have to do your homework. You have to do your research and know how you're then going to position yourself to provide the solutions that they need. Yep.
Thank you so much. So before I go to David, what you just mentioned connects back to what Ufoma mentioned earlier around identifying the challenges and being real about the fact that there are challenges, but you have to solve the challenges, right? You can't be oblivious of the fact that you're coming into a climb where there are big players, where there is going to be a lot of work you have to do to make your way and break through, but you have to solve the problem and identify your niche. So thank you for that. So David, yes, I'm going to ask you a very tough question around taxes, and that's because I know you've run multiple businesses in the UK, and the number one question on the lips of people is, how do I understand in very simple terms or manage my taxes? So what do you have to say around that?
So if you're a business owner, it's two particular taxes that you need to worry about. The first would be the corporation tax, which is the one that the business pays, and then you've got the pay as you earn tax, as well as the national insurance. So that's kind of separate thing. And of course, you then have VAT taxes. So if you earn, the last I checked was 85,000. If you run that, you then get you have to pay essentially VAT. Certain companies are exempt. My company was exempt initially until I got a letter earlier this year saying, you've exceeded a certain amount of money. I think it was in excess of 200 and something thousand. And they said, now we're going to have to withdraw with, exemption, because you're no longer in that bracket. But then I've got a way around it, so I've literally sent them a letter just yesterday to say, no, it's an unusual activity during the year type of thing, and hopefully I can navigate that and get that reinstated. But I think ideally what you want is to have a good accountant who understands how to maximize understands how to maximize the profit, how to kind of work around the tax laws so that you're able to pay as the littlest amount of taxes as possible. So, there's so many ways to do it without going into a lot of details. But more importantly is, trying to, invest. So investing into a lot of things, the ideas, businesses, it's something that ways you can lower your tax, so you're not paying them, because ultimately you're paying taxes on the profits. So you've got your, every capital gains that you have, there's a certain amount of taxes that you have to pay on top of that. And then of course, if you're a shareholder within the business, then once you get the profit of the business, you still have to pay tax on top of that too. So there's multiple taxes that's being leveraged, but the best, one of the best way I say is that navigating some of this work is and I heard you mention something about getting your contracts right. It's very important.
Yeah.
So if you're dealing with some of the ways I work is I get overseas contractors to work for me. So therefore, it doesn't matter the agreement we've had or we have. That's between me and the company that's doing the business, and that way, even if I have my own business as an overseas contractor, then I can actually do business with my business or a subsidiary of my business. See what I mean? So it's really looking at different ways that you can work within the context of the legal framework. Legal framework. There's an element of if it's a minimal amount of payment that you can pay yourself, says I pay myself the minimal amount of payment so I don't have to pay a lot of taxes. A lot of the other things in the way to kind of is, I have benefits that some of because I'm using my house is also one of my business premise. A lot of things around rent, so like my office, I'm charging the business in my office, and it's coming out of the business account, and so it's a whole lot of different ways so you can minimize taxes. But the reality is the tax man is always there, and if you're doing a business and you're still doing your 9 to 5. You're earning some money from the business and you're earning money from the 9 to 5, just have to be careful because the way the way it works is there's a certain amount of tax allowances assigned to particular employment, so that you're just being careful that the bulk of that the bulk of the allowance falls into where you're at least making the bulk of the money at the moment, rather than maybe where you're not making so much money, if you understand what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
But you can go round it at some point. It's still very, the accountant will advise you should pay something. You should pay taxes, employee national references. So there is a track record that you are actually, progress, because ultimately you might get to the point where you need evidence of the business continuity or the business, evidence that your business is growing, or at least your business is not necessarily making a huge amount of profit, but it's actually, doing well. If you're, something that you may be applying for a mortgage, some of this stuff can actually be to your benefit if you're a contractor in that sense. But anyway, I think I'm veering into a different conversation now. I'm not sure if that answers.
Absolutely, it does shed a lot of light. And one of the things that resounds from your response is the fact that don't try to beat the law or try to beat taxes. One way you would be on the good side of the law is to invest in good accountants. They would help you be efficient with your taxes without falling to the wrong side of the law. So if you had to pay, say, 100 units of tax, let me put it in this way, you could be paying 70 units of the same tax and still be very much on the good side of the law. So I took that from your response. Thank you for that. Quick one back to Dekunle, and that would be around. So in October this year, the UK's budget will be out. Is that correct?
Yeah.
For the new administration or the new government. What are some of the core areas government will be focused on that you think immigrants, business owners should also develop ideas around that could keep them in business and profitable?
Yeah, I can only stipulate because obviously
of course,
things that tied to the chest. But I think one thing that they've said since coming into power is, I think there's this, what's it called? There's this fund, this major fund, which is like the main policy and the main economic policy that they're putting into place. And within that, we have various chunks that deal with specific things. So because of I work in innovation tech science, so from that lens I can see they're trying to bring together some of the funds that were in existence before and bring it under this major umbrella. How does that then apply to like people? So when it's announced, we would know how much money is being committed to various areas, and then if you happen to either have ideas that fall under those umbrellas, that will be your time to move, because shortly after they'll be releasing calls for competition. So they'll say, oh, this is the idea, these are the eligibility criteria for you to qualify for the grants. So obviously, if you've got ideas, if you're thinking, that will be the time to like start doing your groundwork. Yeah. So what ideas do I have? What can I do? What innovative thing can I do? So when the grants come out, finding out the other supporting functions that you would need to be able to submit the application, because you can't do it yourself, because it's quite technical as well. So you might need to maybe reach out to one or two, maybe an accountant, maybe someone, I don't know, an academic or something, to help you put together like a proper. It depends on the level of technicality. Somebody might just be like easy ones that you can do yourself, but the more expensive it is, the more like work, intensive it is. So once I guess it's also good to follow the budget announcement. So once it's released, shortly afterwards they will start. So on the government page they will release the competition eligibility criteria and the time and everything. Pay attention, and also go back, and if you can read similar programs that have been done by other governments as well. It's still pretty much the same procedure, because it's run by the civil service. So once you kind of get a sense of what those things are, like what you would need to do, because it's competitive. So as you're doing it, people that this is what they do, they would also like be vying for the same grants as well. So so as EV grants, now it's time to do your groundwork. Look ahead. What are like the 5 priority areas that the Labour government have put forth? Because they will try to tally whether the money that they're going to release will be tallied, or that will flow in the direction of those 5 priorities that they've already established. So if you can then think, okay, so which one of the 5 priorities does my interest fall under? Then you can then start to like hone in and carve out and get ready. And also like network, reach out to businesses, just explore how you can partner, what you can do to benefit from the announcement.
Thank you. So your last statement is going to lead me to Deborah. I know you've talked somewhere around how schools, organizations, particularly universities, have partnership or programs to support students. Of course, they have 20 hours of work, but there are provisions for them to either innovate or to fund their ideas. So do you want to talk about that quickly?
So are you asking me if schools have programs?
No, I'm asking you how students can maximize those opportunities. I mean, they may be silent, but there are available opportunities from schools, from institutions that would want to fuel the ambitions or fuel the entrepreneurial ambitions of students, and how students should be able to take advantage of this.
As a student, you have to look out for information every time. Well, I came in here as a student, and during the course of my program, I always ensured I read the school board, the notice board. Because I was in the fashion industry, though I didn't come in to study fashion. I came in to do my MBA, but in the creative industry. So I was always on the lookout for flyers. I always read the notice board. I never passed the notice board without looking. So looking out for opportunities as a business person, as a fashion designer, and there will always be that information. So, but if you're not prepared to search out for this information, they will pass by you. So, though I saw a business opportunity, more like a grant opportunity in school, if you have a business idea, either you've been in business before or you have a new business, so then they have different areas, either social business, social enterprise, then I think there's the charity also thereabout. So they're willing to give grants, but then you have to apply. And just like Declan said, it's actually highly competitive. So me, I went in with just the idea of being a student. Do you understand? And there's also the session. They also create a session for you to understand what you're actually getting into, how to apply, the necessary things that you need to put in place. But then, like I said from the beginning, if you're not out there looking for the information, it will pass. It will definitely pass by you. So the information is there. Like either sign up for the student union. You can always walk up to the student union and ask questions. So, but if your mind is not, or if you're not in that posture of looking for opportunities, you will not find them. So that's just it. So you have to, as a student, if you're looking to come up with something at the end of the day during your school year, then you constantly have to be in that posture of looking for the opportunities that will help you to, achieve your bigger picture. Though I applied for the grant, I didn't get it, but at least I gave myself an opportunity to put myself out there. So as a student, they are actually available, right? There are those grants, those opportunities are available. And as a student, from my experience, you paid for these things. It's part of your it's part of your tuition. So even if what you're looking for is not on the notice board, go to either your student advisor, go to the student union, the president, ask questions. They would definitely direct you. Even the people that pose as student ambassadors, they have information. Ask. Because I remember the first person that I saw as the student advisor, I asked him, I even connected with him on the IG, asked him around about fashion, and then he gave me tips on how I can either join society and his first tip was, even though you're not in fashion, you are not studying fashion, but you want to get involved, be a friend to someone who is studying fashion. Who is studying fashion course, form a friendship. You understand? So you have access. It gives you access. So I think the main thing is being in a posture looking out for opportunities, because that way, when the opportunity is there, you will find it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And then our final question would be again for David, and this is going to be a tough one as usual. Yes, and that would be around business continuity and scaling the business. It's easy to talk about set up a business if you have a passion around business, but moving from point A to point B could take a lot. So could you just share some of the things small business owners should be aware of to ensure they stay in business longer than, so they stay in business and not that in 2 years, in 5 years, they are gone under, they remain in business and scale.
Absolutely. You've probably heard of this, but a lot of businesses, once you go into a business, especially if you're a startup, you probably don't make profit maybe until the 4th, 5th year. Along those lines, it doesn't mean that you're not making money, but it just means you're not
Profitable.
You're not making the kind of profit. I'm in the area of doing startups and building startups and things of that nature, or acquiring businesses. But I think, for a business to, you have to have, I think the first thing first is having that mindset that you're not in it nothing will obstruct you from pushing ahead, regardless of whatever challenges that you face. So you have to come to terms with that as a point of contact. I think that you have to have a real strategy to start your business. You have to know the ins and outs of that business as a baseline to be able to be relevant. And I think that a business has to plan for when there's potential drivers. So for example, there might be periods where you're not even making money at all. How are you going to survive that period? Which would mean that you have to plan, look for the right amount of funding, potentially as like a startup company, it actually does mean that you have to sacrifice. So meaning that yourself, I can't remember, how many times I've put so much. I remember one point, my business was owing me about 30 grand. My business was owing me that. So I think absolutely important to understand that there would be challenges with the business and having a real strategy on how to fund the business. I think understanding your business critical function, like I said before, what are we doing? And what do I personally, in whatever capacity you are, whether you're the CEO, what do I need to do? What personal sacrifice do I need to do to make sure that I'm contributing my own quota to developing the business? It's not good enough to start a business and you have very minimal interactions with it, or trusting people who do not have the level of experience or depth of experience for you to do it. In some instances, you have to be close. You have to be closely, or you have to be well knitted together with your businesses, having regular catch-ups and things of that nature. And I would say also regularly being aware of socio-economic conditions that are favorable to you. So we talked about the opportunities, for example. We talked about grants, and one of the grants I'm applying for is the UK Innovative Grant. I don't know if any of you heard about that, but yeah, that is, you can get up to 500,000 less. I think you only get about 70% or thereabout of that amount, so 70-75%, where you could pay yourself, pay whoever is working for you. So there are those grants that are available. Being aware of those grants, I think, are important. And I think, obviously, making sure that whatever it is that you are producing is something that's actually going to solve a problem or is solving a problem. So, because you can be stuck. I mean, when I came in, that's exactly what one of the speakers was saying, is that there's no good building something fancy, but it's not really solving the problem. So it really has to be solving the problem. I think if you're working if you have people working for you, then it's also ensuring that those people are well skilled, or they get the amount of training that is necessary for them to perform their function. So a lot of people that worked for me, some of them, they've not even been to university yet. They've just finished, they've probably done secondary school, and they've done and then we give them the opportunity. So you will find yourself in a place where you actually open yourself up to people who you don't necessarily have to pay, so you engage them and they are willing to volunteer, or they're willing to learn. So ingesting new ideas, new fresh eyes, fresh perspective into the business. No one person, someone who might come inexperienced, very quickly within a year or within 6 months or 3 months can very quickly pick up skills, experience, and then they begin to share even to the top man who has been there for a long time and who is, they begin to bring that kind of new ideas.
Okay.
I think in summary, I think that kind of summarizes.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Good way to end the session. Thank you so much, David, Deborah, and Oh, so it's a DDD. You have David, Deborah.